the Vikings have are expected to reunite with Everson Griffin, who, it makes sense that he's going where it all started. It makes a lot of sense. Cam Newton, according to Belichick, is still quarterback number one, yet due to what Newton said, a misunderstanding, that he can't practice for 5 days due to the COVID protocols. As Cam said, it was a misunderstanding, but he still has to go to deal with the protocols. Carl Lawson, who was carted off the field, carted off the practice field, suffered a torn Achilles. Now this is a shame because Carl Lawson is a great player. And a lot of people are like, well, he's not a great player. No, he played in Cincinnati. It doesn't mean he's not a good player. He is a great player. He just needs to be in a different market. He goes to New York, signs a 3-year deal, and then tears his Achilles. Lawson had a good to great camp and a starting of a good preseason. It doesn't stop there. The Jets safety Zane Lewis was carted off the field, and he suffered a torn, I believe it was a patella tendon that he tore, and then he sprained his MCL, so he's done for the year. But he's expected to have more tests just to see, but it's pretty much a known fact that he'll be done. Now, the Vikings also, due to the fact that they have the lowest vaccination rate of anyone in the NFL, Vikings to host an epidemic oncologist, I don't even know exactly how to say it, but they are bringing in a person that knows a lot about epidemics, and trying to explain to the players, well, you got to do this because that's going to help everyone. When, as we said, we'll talk about the Cowboys in a future video, but we have to get this out of the way because this doesn't make any sense. According to Adam Schefter, Dak Prescott may not be 100%. Now, I've looked at this a lot of ways, and I keep coming back to the same assumption. Is this someone from the Cowboys camp saying this? Is this the Cowboys themselves? Is this the doctor of the Cowboys? Is this Dak Prescott himself or people in the Dak Prescott camp? If not, we're just saying things to say things. This is like the fact of what Adam Schefter said about the Aaron Rodgers situation, where it was just an accumulation. It wasn't factual. And I know people go and do this all the time when they say, well, it's just clickbait, you have no sources. You're right. But when you go and say, like, Adam Schefter is a god in terms of the insider world, and then he goes in on the Dan Patrick show and says that it was just an accumulation, there was no source, there was no nothing, and I just chose to break it on draft day. No, there was a reason it was broken on draft day. Because if Aaron got traded on draft day, that took all the fans away from the draft. They would be it changes the whole board for every team. If, say what would have happened if Aaron would have gotten traded to San Francisco. Trey Lance is not a 49er at that point. He's just not. Maybe he's a Green Bay Packer, maybe he's not. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is this. He doesn't, that's not what happened. He's like, well, I just chose to break it on draft day. No. You did it because you knew that would get the most media coverage that you could. You knew that. That makes a lot of sense. But it does take away from these young players trying to get drafted. Because that is a long process. And now the fact that, it's getting taken away, it's getting stolen because they wanted to say that Aaron wanted out. He did not want to. He didn't say that. Same thing goes with Dak Prescott. Unless the doctor of the Cowboys themselves, or Dak Prescott, or his camp said anything, it's not factual. According to the Cowboys and what the Cowboys have said, Dak will be ready. And according to Dak said he'll be ready. Dak said, actually, the soreness is gone. They're just playing it very precautionary. They made it a big deal. Well, he's on a pitch count. He's on a pitch count. He's on a pitch count. They're trying to help him and not hurt him at the same time. The Cowboys said this. The one thing we have to do, due to the fact that he's so competitive, and he wants to do everything, he can't. He's pushing himself way too hard. So we have to hold him back for his sake, because he's going to hurt himself a lot more if we don't. And that's what the Cowboys would do. It's not a big deal. But according to some PR guys and some people who are in other organizations, they said, look, how many people would have had this much coverage of a guy who came back from a leg injury who has a sore muscle in his shoulder? They made it sound like it was a big deal that the Cowboys went and consulted with the Texas Rangers and the New York Yankees, and why would they do that? Why would they do that? Everyone's like, why would they do that? It means they don't know what they're doing. It's not a football injury, which is everyone said. Jay Glazer said it. Everyone said it. It's not a football injury. It's 6 inches away from your armpit. It's that area, which normally pitchers in baseball have. It's not a football-related injury. It's so strange. So, but due to the fact that it's got this much coverage, and the person that was even saying this was like, Dak's fine. He'll be fine. There's no problem. He'll just be sore. If he does what he's supposed to do, does the rehab on it, he'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with it, really. And everyone's like, well, he got 2-3 MRIs. Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Well, that's just the nature of the beast. That's what happened. You gotta get those done just to see if there was something they missed the first time or the second time. And there wasn't. They didn't miss anything. So, it was good for the Cowboys to do that. But, I'm just saying, we have to understand, as much as we want to take Schefter's word as gospel, we still can't get over the fact of what he did with the Aaron Rodgers situation. Because he made that situation way bigger than it was. Because once they do that, everyone else has to find a way to do that. And when there was accumulation. No, this doesn't help the situation at all. It just doesn't. Moving on to some other news. LJ Fort, the linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens, suffers a torn ACL. And in the same division, I'm sorry if I butchered this name, Joseph Osai, to undergo a knee surgery that could possibly end his season. More than likely it will. But I want to end with this. If you have a story and you say something, you have to make sure it's true. You can't just go and say, well, it was accumulation of time. That's not how it works. If you're in a sports, you can't just say it's accumulation of time. You have to have cold, hard facts that, yes, this is what is happening. I've talked to Aaron. This is what he said. Only after when Mike Tirico talked to him was any of this valid. Because Mike Tirico actually talked to him. Off camera. That's what he said. It was off camera. I know what he said. But that's where it made sense. Not when it happened the last time. With Schefter just saying it and no one knows what's going on.